Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the social science class again. Let's continue the class with resource and development from Geography Chapter 1. We proceed further. Let us quickly recap what we have learned yesterday. We have learned the meaning of resources. Everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs provided it is technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable can be termed as a resource. Now, on the basis of classification, we have origin, exhaustibility, ownership, and status of development. On the basis of origin, we have two types, that is biotic resources and abiotic resources. Biotic resources which are obtained from biosphere and have life is known as biotic resources such as human being, plants and animals. And the next one we have is abiotic resources. All those things which are composed of non-living things are called abiotic resources. For example, rock, water, metals, etc. Now on the basis of exhaustibility, we have renewable resources and non-renewable resources. The resources which can be renewed or reproduced by physical, chemical, or mechanical processes are known as renewable resources, such as solar and wind. Now we have non-renewable resources. These resources take millions of years in their formation. Some of the resources like metals are recyclable, and some like fossil fuels cannot be recycled and get exhausted with their use. Now on the basis of ownership, we have four different types of resources. The first one is the individual resources. Second one is the community owned resources. The third one is the national resources. And the fourth one is the international resources. So individual resources are those resources that are owned privately or by individuals. And community resources are those resources which are accessible to all the members of the community. For example, the shopping malls, parks, etc. And all the resources within the political boundaries and oceanic area are known as national resources. And international resources are those resources which belongs to all the members of the earth are called international resources. And these resources are regulated by the international institutions to help the nation use natural resources sustainably without compromising economic growth and human needs. Now, on the basis of the status of development, we have four different types, that is potential resources, developed resources, stock and reserve resources. Now, resources which are found in region but have not been utilized are known as potential resources. Resources which are surveyed and their quality and quantity have been determined for utilization are known as developed resources. Now, stock resources, materials in the environment which have potential to satisfy human needs, but human beings do not have the appropriate technology to assess these resources are known as stock. Now, reserve resources are those resources that are subset of the stock which can be put into use with the help of existing technical how but their use has not been started are called the reserve resources. Now the next topic we have for today is resource development or development of resources. Resources are vital for human survival as well as for maintaining the quality of life. It was believed that resources are free gifts of nature. As a result, human beings use them indiscriminately, and this has led to the following major problems which we can see on the screen. Depletion of resources for satisfying the greed of few individuals, accumulation of resources in few hands, which in turn divided the society into two segments, that is haves and have-nots, rich and the poor. Indiscriminate exploitation of resources have led to a global ecological crisis such as global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution and land degradation. An equitable distribution of resources has become essential for a sustained quality of life and global peace. Now, if the present trend of resources depletion by a few individuals and countries continues, the future of our planet is in danger. Therefore, resource planning is essential for sustainable existence of all forms of life. Sustainable existence is a component of sustainable development. In order to protect the environment and balance the economic development at the global level, 100 heads of the states met in June 1992 at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil for the first International Earth Summit. The summit was convened for addressing urgent problems of environmental protection and socio-economic development at the global level. The assembled leaders signed the Declaration of Global Climatic Change and Biological Diversity. The Rio Convention endorsed the Global Forest Principles and adopted Agenda 21 for achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. Agenda 21. It is the declaration signed by the world leaders in 1992 at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, and in short form we call it UNCED, which took place at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It aims at achieving global sustainable development. It is an agenda to combat environmental damage, poverty, disease through global cooperation and common interests, mutual needs and shared responsibilities. One of the main objectives of the Agenda 21 is that every local government should draw its own local Agenda 21. Let us see what is resource planning. Resource planning is a complex process which involves the three stages which you can see on the screen. The first stages is identification and inventory of resources across the regions of the country. This involves surveying, mapping, and qualitative and quantitative estimation and measurement of the resources. Now in the second stage, it's involving evolving a measurement of the resources with a planning structure endowed with appropriate technology, skilled and institutional setup for implementing resource development plans. Now in the third stages, we have matching the resources development plans with overall national development plans. India has made concerted efforts for achieving the goals of resource planning right from the first 5-year plan launch after independence. The availability of resources is a necessary condition for the development of any region, but mere availability of resources in the absence of corresponding changes in technology and institutions may hinder development. Therefore, there are many regions in our country that are rich in resources, but these are included in economically backward regions. On the contrary, there are some regions which have a poor resources base but they are economically developed. Let's see why resource planning is necessary in India, or what is the importance of resource planning for a country like India. Planning is widely accepted strategy for judicious use of resources. It has a very great importance for a country like India because India has a very large, enormous diversity in the availability of resources. There are regions which are rich in certain types of mineral resources but are deficient in some other resources. There are some regions which can be considered self-sufficient in terms of availability of resources, and there are some regions which have acute shortage of vital resources. Now if we look on the screen, we can see some few examples here. The states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh are rich in mineral resources and coal deposits. Arunachal Pradesh has abundance of water resources but lacks in infrastructural development. The state of Rajasthan is very well endowed with solar and wind energy but lacks in water resources. The cold desert of Ladakh is relatively isolated from the rest of the country. However, it has a rich cultural heritage, but it is deficient in water, infrastructure, and some vital minerals. This calls for balanced resource planning at the national, state, regional, and local levels. Now, again, we have another very good reasons why we need a resource planning in India. Another reason is that the history of colonization reveals that rich resources in colonies were the main attractions for the foreign invaders. It was primarily the higher level of technological development of the colonizing countries that helped them to exploit resources of other regions and establish their supremacy over their colonies. Therefore, resources can contribute to development only when they are accompanied by appropriate technological development and institutional changes. India has experienced all this in different phases of colonialization. Therefore, in India, development in general and resource development in particular does not only involve the availability of resources but also the technology, quality of human resources, and the historical experiences of the people needs the needs the planning for resource development in India. Now, resource planning in India. Resource planning is not only necessary, but we also need to conserve resources. Why? Because resources are vital for any developmental activity, but irrational consumption and overutilization of resources may lead to socio-economic and environmental problems. To overcome these problems, resource conservation at various levels in the regional, state, national, and local level is very important. This has been the main concern of the leaders and thinkers in the past too. For example, we can quote Gandhiji was very apt in voicing against his concern about resource conservation. In his words, he says, "There is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed." He placed the greedy and selfish individuals and exploitative nature of modern technology as the root cause for resource depletion at the global level. He was against mass production and wanted to replace it with the production by the masses. As we all know that we live on land and we perform our economic activities on land and we use it in different ways. Thus land is a natural resource of utmost importance. So now in the following lessons we will be seeing why or how land has been utilized and what are the causes of land degradation and how can we conserve the lands. Thus, land is a natural resource of utmost importance, as we all know, as it supports natural vegetation, wildlife, human life, economic activities, transport, and communication system. However, land is an asset of a finite magnitude. Therefore, it is important to use the available land for various purposes with careful planning. India has a land under a variety of relief features, namely mountains, plateaus, plains, and islands. About 43% of the land area is plain, which provides facilities for agriculture and industries. Now, if we look on the screen, you could see the bifurcation of the land. Here again, mountains account for 30% of the total surface area of the country and ensure perennial flow of some rivers, provide facilities for tourism and ecological aspects. About 27% of the area of the country is the plateau region. It possesses rich reserve of minerals, fossil fuels, and forests. Let us see how land has been utilized and land resources and on what purpose the land resources has been used in India. Land resources are used for the following purpose as you are seeing on the screen here. The first one is forest, the second one is the land not available for cultivations, the third one is other uncultivated land, the fourth one we have is the fallow land, the fifth one is the net sown area. Now, let us see how lands not available for cultivations are further divided. They have been barren and wasteland, land put to non-agricultural uses, for example, buildings, rocks, factories, etc. are included in the land which is not available for cultivation, and other uncultivated land excluding the fallow land are permanent pastures and grazing land, including land under miscellaneous tree crops growth not included in a net sown area, and also culturable wasteland left uncultivated for more than 5 agricultural years. Now let us see what are fallow lands. Fallow lands includes those current fallow left without cultivations for one or less than one agricultural year. It also includes others than current fallow left uncultivated for the past 1 to 5 agricultural years. Now, what is net sown area then? Area sown more than once in an agricultural year class is known as gross crop area or net sown area. Now let us see how the land are being utilized in India. The use of land is determined both by physical factors such as topography, climate, soil types, as well as human factors such as population, density, technological capability, and culture and traditions. I repeat, the use of land is determined both by physical factors such as topography, climate, soil types, as well as human factors such as population density, technological capability, and cultural and traditions. Now, total geographical area of India is 3.28 million square kilometers. Land use data, however, is available only for 93% of the total geographical area because of the land use reporting for most of the northeastern states except Assam has not been done fully. Moreover, some areas of Jammu and Kashmir occupied by Pakistan and China have also not been surveyed. The land used under permanent pasture has also decreased. If we look into the graph, how are we able to feed a huge cattle population on this pasture land, and what are the consequences of it? Most of the other than the current fallow lands are either of poor quality or the cost of cultivation of such land is very high. Hence, these lands are cultivated once or twice in about 2 or 3 years, and if these are included in the net sown area, then the percentage of the NSA in India comes to about 54% of the total reporting area. The pattern of net sown area varies greatly from one state to another. It is over 80% of total area in Punjab and Haryana and less than 10% in Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Manipur, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, forest area in the country is far lower than the desired 33% of the geographical area, as it was outlined in the National Forest Policy, that is 1952, passed in 1952. It was considered essential for maintenance of ecological balance. The livelihood of millions and millions of people who live on the fringes of this forest depend upon it. A part of the land is termed as wasteland and land put to other non-agricultural uses. Wastelands includes rocky, arid and desert areas, and land put to other non-agricultural uses include settlements, roads, railways, industries, etc. Continuous use of land over a long period of time without taking appropriate measures to conserve and manage it has resulted in land degradation. Thus, in turn, has a serious repercussions on society and environment. As we all know, we have shared our land with the past generations and we'll have to do it so with the future generations that is to come too. 95% of our basic needs for food, shelter, and clothing are obtained from land. And human activities have not only brought about degradation of land but also have aggravated the pace of natural forces to cause damage to land. Some human activities such as deforestation, overgrazing, mining, quarrying to have contributed significantly in land degradation in India. Now, mining sites are abandoned after excavation work is complete, leaving deep scars and traces of overburdening. For example, like in the states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha, deforestation due to mining have caused severe land degradation. And in the states like Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, overgrazing is one of the main reasons for land degradation. And in the states like Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh, over-irrigation is responsible for land degradation due to the waterlogging leading to increase in salinity and alkalinity in the soil. The mineral processings like grinding of limestone for cement industry and calcite and soapstone for ceramic industry generate huge quantity of dust in the atmosphere. It retards the process of infiltration of water into the soil after it settles down on the land. And now we could see in the recent years that industrial effluents was as waste have become a major source of land and water pollution in many parts of the country. As land resources is the most important resources and primary resources for human beings, we need to conserve. And there are various ways to solve the problems of land degradations. For example, we can say afforestation and proper management of grazing can also help to some extent. Planting of shelter belts of plants, control on overgrazing, stabilization of sand dunes by growing thorny bushes are some of the methods to check land degradation in arid areas. Proper management of wastelands, control of mining activities, proper discharge and disposal of industrial effluents and waste after treatment can reduce land and water degradation in industrial and suburban areas. Quickly summarize what we have done today. Why resource planning is important. What were the three stages involved in resource planning? What are the uses of land? What are the causes of the land degradation? Suggest some few steps to conserve land resources. So these are the few topics that we have covered today. Let us see, let us try to answer the following questions that you are seeing on the screen. Which of the following is an example of abiotic resources? Can anyone of you guess? Yes, the answer is method. Now the next question is, who said the following words? There is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. Yes, the answer is Gandhi. Now name any two states which are rich in mineral resources. Yes, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, etc. Now, what are the causes of land degradation? Name any two. Yes, overgrazing, mining, deforestation, etc. Now, next is, where was the first Earth Summit conference organized? It was, yes, it is at Brazil. Now, when was the first International Earth Conference organized? Yes, it is in June 1992. Very good. Now let us see what are the three stages of resource planning. The first one is, the answer is identification and inventory of resources. The second one is evolving a planning structure endowed with appropriate technology, skill and institutional setup for implementing resource development plans. And the third one is matching the resource development plans with overall national development plans. I hope you're all clear with what we have done today. We'll continue tomorrow with soil as a resources. Thank you.